They were called Rosie the Riveters, the name given to all the women who worked in the factories and the shipyards during World War II, building planes, ships, and bombs while they were working at home to support the war. Their loved ones were fighting on the front lines, sometimes even losing their lives in combat. Rosie the Riveter, a cultural icon of World War II, a symbol of the millions of women who stepped in when the men shipped out. Mothers, wives, and sisters who entered the workforce and learned how to build the weapons and transports used overseas.
While the boys at the front sang a new version of the old song, "The girl I left behind has the job I left behind."
More than 75 years later, these women have made it their mission to educate and remind Americans about the crucial role the Rosies played in the war effort.
The men had all gone off to war, and these things had to be done, and who's going to do it? It's going to be the women.
Every week, Marian Wynn, Agnes Moore, and Marian Wynn, all between the ages of 92 and 99, get together to share their stories with visitors to the Rosie the Riveter National Park in Richmond, California, the same town where in 1943 Marian Wynn was just 17 when she became a draftsman at Kaiser Shipyard.
We worked on the original blueprints, erased architect's drawings, and put in our own under direction by the four master draftsmen. That's kind of powerful stuff, you know, because they built the ships with our directions now.
Marian's older sister, Phyllis Gould, became a welder after hearing about the bombing of Pearl Harbor on the radio.
I probably knew as much about welding as some of those guys that they just hired. So one morning, I just, as my lead man would point out, you know, Joe, do this. Every time he'd point, I'd say, I can do that. And so he said, well, and it was a vertical weld. And he said, okay, give it a try. And from that time, I was part of the crew.
The shipyards ran round-the-clock daycare for Rosies like Agnes, who was a single mother of a 1-year-old daughter when she took up welding.
Because I worked graveyard, I left my little girl on 2 shifts. She'd have her PJs on and would have been asleep and wrapped up in a blanket, and the women would take her in and put her to bed on a cot. There was a huge room full of kids.
Another welder, Marian Wynn, went to work in 1944. The same year her brother, Private First Class Donald Parsons, was killed, along with 10,000 other Allied troops in the invasion of Normandy.
We were just going into the back door of the house, and we saw this brand new car driving in with 2 service people in it. So we knew something happened. So they came in and told us that he had gotten killed.
Now, 75 years after receiving that devastating news, Marian, joined by her Rosie sisters, reunited with her brother, becoming the first member of her family to visit his grave at the American cemetery in France.
He's finally here.
Yeah. He's happy to see you.
Very happy. He's waited a long time.
Well, joining me now, some of the Rosies whom you met in our report: Marian Wynn, former pipe welder; Marian Wynn, a former draftsman; and May Cryer, a former riveter. Welcome all. I was so touched by you visiting your brother's cross and finally having some more consolation from being here.
The final, you know, it made peace.
But Marian Wynn, tell me about how you, as a 17-year-old, learned how to be, you know, a welder, how to do what you learned how to do in wartime.
I was actually the draftsman, and I just graduated from high school. It was an art teacher that recognized I had a little talent, and she recommended me to go to the special training at the University of California. It was a 6-week course in engineering drawing, and that's when I learned how to read and draw blueprints.
And May Cryer, how challenging was it for you to all of a sudden be thrust into the war mobilization effort?
I, too, was 17 years old when I started at Boeing in Seattle. I built B-17s and B-29s, and I'm very proud of it.
Well, you should be. It was the B-17s and the B-29s that arguably won the war.
I know, and isn't it amazing what we've done?
It is amazing. The pride you all must feel.
We do.
To know that you're part of history, and the country came together, everyone, the home front, the men overseas.
More than you know.
Yes.
Everything was to get the war over so we could get our boys home and the women get back to living again, get our husbands home.
Marian, what happened when the war was over? What happened to you and your work?
Well, actually, first of all, we knew that we were there for the duration. You know, we did not expect to keep those jobs. I was actually married to a Coast Guardsman, and by the end of my year, I was expecting my first baby. So that's why I laugh when I say I left the shipyard because I couldn't get my leg up on that first step on the key system bus. So.
And May, what about you? What happened to you when the war was over? How did you readjust?
Well, I met this cute sailor on the dance floor in 1944, and before the war was over, we were married, and he had a job to come home to in Trenton, New Jersey, and we were married almost 70 years before I lost him. A good life, a good life.
Wow. But the sense of success and satisfaction that you all achieved. Now, here this week is the first time you're all come together here, and you're hoping to get some more recognition, Marian Suzette?
That's right.
You're hoping that Congress actually might do something.
Yes, my sister Phyllis, who you saw previously, has worked tirelessly, and May, towards getting the recognition for the women, the millions of women who worked, had home front jobs to produce the goods that the military needed. So, yeah, it was.
It's such an honor, such a privilege for me. I've heard so much about you and the Rosies and everything you did for all my life. I've been coming to Normandy, you know, every decade until now. So it's just very special to have you here. I know you are as well. Thank you very much, Marian Wynn.
Thank you.
Marian Suzette, May,